Well, friends, it's that time of year again. Oh, you mean Christmas? Where the Christ baby was born upon hay piles by a magical virgin lady who occasionally appears on tortillas and in pavement oil stains? No! It's a time of year where we talk about Zen Centers and sex scandals. A perennial reoccurring theme here on Zen Confidential. So, let's get comfortable and let's get into it. A friend sent me an email. The email came from a friend of his. And the email from the friend of his came from the friend's friend's Zen Center. And it came at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was a letter from the teacher of this Zen Center, one of the main teachers of this, I would posit, successful Zen Centers, one of the more prominent ones, I believe. And it was the letter from the teacher was a very sort of matter-of-fact, somewhat anodyne missive. They sent it out, this teacher, to all of their students. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are having a good session. Just wanted to let you know, I'm taking a leave of absence from the blank, blank, blank Zen Center indefinitely, effective immediately. Not decided how long, but I'll be sure to let you know once it's determined how long I'll be taking this leave of absence. I appreciate your care and understanding, and I wish you all the very best with love and appreciation. The teacher's name. 30 minutes later, it is now like 1:30 in the morning. A missive comes from the Zen Center itself to the whole community, and it is even a more anodyne expression of the sentiments stated by the guiding teacher of this community. So I'm assuming this was sent by some board members. Dear Sangha, this has a very stern, dry tone. The blank, 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 blank Zen Center Ethics Committee, we have been notified of a potential ethical breach of conduct, and we will be conducting a careful, systematic process to investigate this matter under the guidance of an olive branch. And they go on to talk about the olive branch, and they go on to talk about how this is an extremely painful communication, and they're going to keep everyone informed. So I didn't give this a ton of thought when I first got it from my friend. But then I laid down with my eye massager and an audiobook because I had a long day of trying to do my job at the computer, and I started running that term, those words, an olive branch, through my head. When my community, we're probably coming up on our 10-year anniversary of it, when my community, no, we're past my 10-year anniversary of it. Anyways, when my community had its sex scandal, we contracted an olive branch. It's an organization that helps spiritual communities deal with shitstorms. And when we hired them to deal with ours, they led us through a series of processes and investigations and meetings and therapeutic practices, and on and on and on it went. And, you know, I mean, I was joking, I'm making light of this at the beginning of this video about how it's that time of year again, but really, as long as there are spiritual communities, there are going to be sex scandals. And so, in honor and appreciation, I just did something with this fake fire. In honor and appreciation of this fact, today I thought I would sit down with you and go through the phases of a sex scandal, from A to Z. Are you ready, folks? Here we go. The phases, steps, and stages of a Zen Center sex scandal. By the way, caveat, disclaimer, I'm not sure if this community is going through a sex scandal. The emails from the guiding teacher and the ethics committee people were perhaps intentionally vague. I'm just assuming it's a sex scandal because whenever there is a scandal in a religious community, it involves boobs, boys, or money. One of the three, two of the three, or all of the three. Boobs, boys, or money. So I'm assuming it probably involves boobs. But maybe boobs and money, maybe boobs, boys, and money. But anyways, disclaimer over. Now let's get through, let's go to our main event. Number one, the very first step in any Zen Center sex scandal is denial. This denial could be something that was taking place for many, many years within the community, or it can take place at the time that the sex scandal breaks. Now, this denial can take a few forms. Number one, there are the people who refuse to believe that any sexual misconduct happened. As night follows day, these people will go to their graves continuing to refuse that any sexual misconduct happened. The teacher could stand before them with the sacred scriptures of the Buddha before him, put his hand upon the scriptures and swear that he committed sexual misconduct. Doesn't matter. These people will laugh it off and say, I don't believe you. Denial. The second form of denial is, hey, the sexual misconduct wasn't sexual misconduct, it was a teaching. This is the general acceptance that something sexual happened between the teacher and the student, but it is a denial of the significance of this event. It usually falls into a couple categories. As I said, hey, it was a teaching. The teacher was pushing the button of the student. Or, okay, something happened, but boys will be boys. We're all adults here. Ignore it, keep practicing. That's the second form of denial. The third form of denial occurs within the people who accept that something happened, accept that something not okay happened. These people are willing to do the personal and the communal work to heal from the sexual misconduct, but they're in denial about how bad their life within this community is about to get. And they're in denial about how deeply sexual misconduct affects and infects a Zen community. They think they can go through the motions, hire an olive branch or a similar organization, reaffirm or expand upon existing ethical guidelines and rules of conduct, perhaps punish or expel the teacher from their organization, and then just move on. If only. Second stage in a Zen Center sex scandal is, I guess you could call it, conversation. That's not quite the right way to put it. More like the war of words now begins. This is within the community and outside of the community. Press attention, which I guess is what this is. Some guy on YouTube talking about some other Zen Center's allegedly sex scandal, right? People within the community and people outside of the community are going to be talking about you all the time. In some sense, the second stage of the sex scandal counteracts the denial of the first stage of the sex scandal. So everybody's talking about it, okay? The doors are blown wide open in these communities which were formerly defined, governed by silence. Silence no more. Everybody's talking. I mean, in our community, when we had our sex scandal, it broke on a website, and I think it was like within a month or 2 months, I had had hundreds of hours of conversation with people within the community. Meanwhile, a conversation was taking place outside of our community. First it was a bunch of smaller Buddhist websites, and you just wait, and you just wait, and then it hits bigger publications. It hits Lion's Roar, the Buddhist magazine. It hits Tricycle, the Buddhist magazine. And then it goes even bigger in our case. It hits the LA Times, and I think it was in the Atlantic Monthly, and in I think it was the Daily Beast, and then it was a big one in the New York Times. And when it hits the New York Times, you are defined in perpetuity by this sex scandal. Your teacher and your community is. In our case, I had a student who was from Japan show me an article in a newspaper from Japan, and she was worried that her mother was going to read this article and see that her Zen teacher was involved in a sex scandal. So, in sum, a war of words begins, and it is like a street fight. It is chaotic. Everybody is fighting with everybody. Everybody is arguing. Everybody is letting their deepest thoughts and feelings about Zen practice and spirituality and sexual intercourse fly freely in these bar fights of conversation. After infinite arguing among any, many, and all members of the community and interested parties outside of the community, comes the decision to have meetings. Meeting after meeting after meeting. Infinite meetings. Meetings that will never end. Meetings that will continue until the end of time within this community. Board meetings. Meetings among the ordained in the community. Meetings among the board and the ordained. Meetings among the board and the ordained and the guiding teachers of the community. Meetings of the board and the ordained and the guiding teachers of the community and all the members of the community. Meetings open to all the above as well as members outside of the community. Meetings very carefully designed to take care of what we called reporters of harm. The person or persons who were directly affected by the sexual misconduct. It's a cold splash of water on the face, these meetings. They're oftentimes extremely emotional, or they can be also very legalistic, okay? They can be incredibly psychological or therapeutic or therapy speak. All right, you're going to be passing talking sticks. Okay, you're going to be going through the rules for engaging within a listening circle. Okay, open heart. Don't run a script through your head while another person is talking. No crosstalk. Let a person speak their mind and then move on to the next person past the talking stick. And I did so many of these meetings. I remember a meeting in Venice Beach with all my fellow monks and a guy who was going to help us learn how to do spiritual leadership now without a top dog in the community. A guy who talked about how the board of directors had to empower us, empower me, and empower the other monks in our community. We had to spread the leadership around our community. We couldn't just funnel all of our spiritual ideals onto our teacher. We had meetings, just a few of us who were leading the main temple and training center with a psychologist because we were, let's just say, not getting along very well. And those meetings, I had a knot as tight as the Hope Diamond in my gut for like 2 years as we did meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. I went into every one of them like a guy going to the execution chamber. And yes, I'm a drama queen. And yes, I was attached. And yes, I was naive and idealistic. But in some sense, the practice and the work, my work within this community for so many years, I think it was 11 years at that time, had nurtured this openness and this almost like childlike approach within me, and so it was hard. That's what I'm saying. It was hard. Fourth stage of a sex scandal is the restructuring of spiritual leadership. So this is a big phase. The head honcho ain't going to be the head honcho anymore. Ancillary leaders within the community are going to come to the fore. Okay, so a secondary or a tertiary teacher will take on the leadership and teaching duties of the deposed head honcho. Okay, this can get tricky. A lot of people are going to leave the community now. They don't like this secondary person who was before underneath the head honcho, now being elevated to the status of head honcho because that person was a peer. What are they doing now, giving the main teachings where the head teacher used to teach, right? What are they doing sitting on the high seat? This is one of their peers. The board of directors is probably going to get a heck of a lot more involved now in the community's schedule and the intimate details of private instruction, okay? Because the board of directors is legally responsible for what happens at the community. So I guarantee you the board of directors of this Zen Center that sent that email is talking to their lawyers. Like if something really bad happens within a community, the board members can get sued. They actually have insurance for boards of directors of operations like a Zen Center so that they can't get sued. But anybody can sue anybody. The rest of the organization can get sued as well, the other head teachers within the organization. So boards of directors at a Zen Center don't get paid. They do a ton of work. Nobody knows how much work the boards of directors do. They also get a little bit of an ego hit and go on a little bit of a power trip, in my experience, from having so much authority within a spiritual organization. And when sex scandals hit, you know, these lay people often assume a much greater role within the community. Now, sticking their fingers into actual spiritual aspects of things and puppeteering the monks and nuns and the other spiritual teachers. So, you know, the more a community has invested itself in one person, the greater and deeper the catastrophe of a sexual scandal within that community. If it hits the head honcho, i.e. the lead teacher, the community is in a lot of trouble. And it will not survive in its previous form. So, there it is. If you're involved in a Zen community or a Buddhist community or a religious community that is going through a spiritual scandal, it's over, okay? It's over. Life as you knew it within that community is over. Our community, in my humble opinion and observation, never fully accepted this fact. Something now has to die. The old way is dead. This is step number 4. It is a profound restructuring of the spiritual leadership. And this is the this addresses the existential catastrophe that takes place within a community when their leader, whom they have trusted to guide them on the spiritual path, commits the most basic human infraction, i.e. sexual misconduct. Again, make no mistake, your community as you knew it is over. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you let the old way die, then the sooner something new can be born. But the death has to be complete. Don't cling to the past. Don't let the little hamster on the wheel run itself to madness within your head. You know, don't stay in denial. Don't stay in permanent conversation trying to make sense of it all, because it doesn't make sense, okay? It never will make sense, okay? Something has to die completely. You have to let go or surrender your ideals, your pride, your hopes, your dreams, your, let's face it, arrogance around how great your community was, how great your teacher was, how nicely ironed your robes were, how great your bows were, You have those moments where you impress somebody with the wisdom you gained within your community, and it's all pissed on now. And you just have to accept that. Get humble. Let your old ways die so something new and true can be born. Some stories don't have happy endings. And Zen Centers, sex scandals are just such stories. I mean, there's just no other way to spin it. Okay, but here's the thing. The truth trumps happiness. Okay? That's what we're here for. Really. We're here for the truth. That's what brings us to the cushion. That's what keeps us on the cushion. That's what puts us in our robes, makes us do the bows, makes us learn new form, makes us surrender some, most, or even all of our ego to the teacher-student relationship. It's what allows us to work with that energy that comes when a teacher and a student are simpatico. We are drawn to the truth, like a plant is drawn to the sun. And that's more important than happy endings. It's more important than our personal happiness on some level. It's more important than whatever naive and idealistic or even realistic projections we've put upon the teacher who has now been deposed from the throne of our idealized, fantastical notion of what it means to be our spiritual hero. Truth, 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 truth. Truth is going to get you through a Zen Center sex scandal. And in some sense, it's a truth that's much bigger than you and your community and the teacher and even the tradition. And in some sense, it's a truth that is like perfectly you-sized and is going to have to work exactly and 100% for you. And the sooner you enter the truth phase, the better. I remember sitting on the phone with a dear friend of mine who was a monk and a member of the board of directors who was profoundly competent and willing to work long hours for free for the betterment of the community. And I remember this monk friend of mine telling this highly competent board member, well, there's a difference between harm and hurt. Did Roshi harm the students or hurt the students? You see? Because we were crafting one of these statements. Oh, let's throw that in as an addendum to the conversation part of this sexual scandal list, right? There's going to be lots of written statements. The statements are going to be more and more anodyne, generic, flat, impersonal, legalistic, and the more flat, legalistic, impersonal, and lame that they are, the longer they took to craft. Okay, some of the worst writing you will ever read in your life will come as a result of this sex scandal from the board of directors and the ordained, trying to communicate to the community. In any event, we were writing one of those statements, and this monk spent like 2.5 hours trying to parse the difference between the words harm and the words hurt. I don't even, one of the harm I think was like permanently damaged in his mind, and hurt meant like, you know, bruised or something. He was going on and on and on about this. And the upshot was this dude still couldn't accept that there were women out there who had experienced harm or hurt from our teacher and our community. And a few days later, that highly competent and crucial board member tendered his resignation. Why? Because this stupid monk couldn't accept the truth. So the sooner you accept the truth that something bad, something not okay, all right, happened in your community, the sooner you can begin to heal, the whole community can begin to heal, the death of the old ways and the old community and the old Zen Center can happen, and something else can be born. I'm going to conclude, well, on nothing fun, okay? I started this video with some jocularity, but I'm going to end it with some questions, which I don't normally do. I usually try to conclude these videos with some kind of food for your practice, and maybe the questions are food. My experience with my teacher, Joshu Sasaki Roshi, was profound. He changed my life. At the risk of being some idiot talking on the internet, he was I don't know what to say, man. He was the real deal. And as the years pass and I think about the effect that he had on my life, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to him. And I love him. I love him so deeply. And he committed this sexual misconduct. Somehow, this is the ongoing, like, koan. And really, it just, as time goes on and I process that experience, I'm more my own man and less Joshu Sasaki Roshi's one-time student. But that's only by virtue of the fact that the dude is dead and gone and can't do any more harm, And so one can put him in a box and begin to shape his legacy and one's memories around him as one pleases, right? And I'm not totally convinced that I've fully embraced the truth of that whole experience, because I may not be being completely and totally honest. I don't know. I lived through this experience. And what I learned from it, you know what? I didn't learn anything from it, okay? I moved through that experience. I helped my teacher die. I stayed within my community for another 3 years, and I finally moved on. Moved through the experience and moved on. And something in me died. I don't know what it was. I don't know how the process happened, but something totally died. And I wound up writing about the experience of that sex scandal, which made me unfit to continue to be a leader within the community. And so I moved on from my role as the administrative abbot of our head temple, and suddenly I was unemployed and homeless and living out of my car, taking some mushrooms in Northern California, camping, talking into my phone, to recording my thoughts, writing furiously, starting to smoke again, crying, happy, sad, got an idea for a novel. Here I am many years later, having completed that novel, living in Europe, making videos for YouTube where I'm talking about this. Something has to change. in your life and in your practice with a fatal earthquake in your community, like a sex scandal involving your beloved teacher. I always say that the two greatest things that ever happened to me in my life were finding Zen practice and the monastery and leaving strict formal Zen practice and the monastery. Those are the two most important things that ever happened to me, but not necessarily in that order. If you want to support this channel, you can go here, patreon.com/showsonjackhobner. There is also the opportunity to make a one-time or many-time donation to this channel through PayPal, which is in the comments section below. Not the comments section, the video description. My heart goes out to the community that is going through this scandal, this heartache, this issue right now. I won't name them because it's not my business to, but my heart goes out to them. My wishes and hopes for their healing go out to them. And in closing, if you're a teacher, don't touch your students. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's just not worth it. Grow up. Get a girlfriend. Get a boyfriend. Get in a relationship. Grow the fuck up, Mr. Big Shot. Practice what you preach. Over and out.